Hey folks, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. We are the world's largest, fastest online triathlon team. We are home of the first time finish guarantee and the 4 keys of race execution and, of course, our weekly coach chat. This week I'm going to talk about racing in the fall. And particularly when I talk about racing in the fall, I'm talking about what it means to understand performance in the fall as related to the rest of your year. And hopefully giving you some opportunity or some guidance on how to think about fall racing as a chance for you to really sort of grow and develop as an athlete. This time of year, especially as you move into September, October, November, total number of events starts to decline here in North America, and a lot of times our energy or interest wanes. When you're all excited about racing in July, September comes and you're like, I just don't want to get out of bed today. I haven't been training, I'm not that into it, the weather's not so great. Usually it's cool, but this week, of course, it's insanely humid here in the Northeast, and I'm sure it's hot elsewhere. And so people sort of start to, take their expectations and drive them down and downplay the importance of a fall event. For me, I think a fall event is a great way to sort of close out your year. I was just on the phone today with one of our athletes who was contemplating whether or not to do Ironman Lake Tahoe this year, with his fitness being not what he wanted it to be. And one of my main points for him as the pro racing side was just, hey, this is a great way to close out your year. What a great way to sort of finish things and then move on to the next phase of your training. So with that said, I'm going to go through a couple notes. Of course, there's always other people on the team here, and if you have questions, you can go ahead and post them. I will answer them, and I'll answer any of your questions once I'm done with this brief presentation. I have to apologize for the moving banner behind me. It is a little disorienting, but I do have the air conditioning on up here, otherwise I might die. So thanks for your patience. I really appreciate it. All right. So how did I come up with this topic? Well, really, it came up because I'm talking to a lot of people right now in the fall about what it means to race, and overwhelmingly, people are kind of down on themselves, like, well, I'm not as fit as I was in May because my test data is down. I was hoping to be, this fit by September, but I'm only this fit. And there's this big gap, so I'm not sure about my race. Like, if having perfect fitness was a criteria for actually deciding whether or not to race, a lot of people wouldn't show up ever. Okay, that's not the case. There's a lot of different reasons for racing, and perfect fitness is not one of them. And when I think about the fall, typically you've already raced this year. You've already had a shot at racing. If we're talking about a half iron, 70.3 distance, odds are this is your second or third one of the year, perhaps. So this is a chance for you to really build on your experience. Take what you learned in that first go around and then do it again. There's nothing worse about finishing a race and then saying, man, I just left 20 minutes on the table. And then saying that, but then not doing anything about it. For me, as a coach, and also for myself as an athlete, I'm not going to say something if I can't then deliver upon it. Like, I would never say, whoa, I could have been 20 minutes faster in Tremblant, because I just would have done a bunch of stuff differently. Like, A, what are those things? B, how would I do them differently? And then C, let me do it and find out. There's no better laboratory for learning about yourself and learning about your fitness and your limits, your capacity, your skills, your experience, than racing. That's it. And as triathletes, we don't get to race enough commensurate with how much training time we put in. Okay? So for me, fall racing is really about using your experience to move beyond your fitness. The conversation in the fall for fall racing isn't about am I as fit as I thought I would be, or oh, woe is me, why did I do all those workouts? For me, the fall is about finding speed in places other than just fitness. It's easy in the spring and early summer to build fitness. You're excited, the needle is moving up, everything's getting better. And somewhere across the course of your year, results get harder and harder to come by. That's because you're reaching sort of the peak of your potential given the constraints you have in life and ability to recover, physical conditioning, conditions outside. And so, it becomes harder and harder to find speed. It's not impossible to find speed. And so I want to take that fitness side off the table for right now If you happen to be an outlier who continues to build fitness, even now, well into September, good for you, but odds are you aren't. So here are some thoughts for you about how to do things. Number one, review your lessons learned from earlier this year. How can you plan to eliminate those mistakes? As I mentioned in my earlier example, you probably raced, whether it's the same distance or another triathlon or even just another race. There's probably a bunch of things that you would have done differently. Hopefully you did a race report, you captured those things. So now you get a chance to go back and fix those things. And the first thing you do when you start writing your race plan for this fall race is refer back to the last race you did with the race report, where it says, you know, don't pour sports drink on head in first aid station. You could be like, note to self, new race plan, not going to pour sports drink on my head, you know, right? Never try newfangled, strange lacing system on race day. Note to self, get real laces for shoes before race day. These are things that you can start to build into your arsenal, your understanding, your approach to racing. And we start by reviewing those mistakes because that's easy stuff, right? You know, what you did, you know it was wrong. Let's not do it again. Ergo, already better. Like this is easy peasy, right? We can totally do this stuff. So we're going to fire that up. Areas that you can focus at include gear. You know, would you make different choices with your equipment, like your helmet or your wheels, tires? Would you make different choices with your clothing, tri-top, bike shorts, socks, no socks in the bike shoes? I usually recommend no socks. All those elements, sunglasses, you know, clear lenses, tinted lenses. You need a sweat guard. You know, I sweat like nobody's business, and I'm really considering getting my hands on a sweat guard before Ironman Hawaii this year. Otherwise, it'll be a perfect little rainstorm inside my helmet. So that's something that I'm considering, for example. Another area to focus on is nutrition. You know, odds are early season race, you didn't quite get that nutrition right. You know, everyone has a plan, but each year your needs change, and of course, in that first race of the year, most people don't spend enough time focusing on the micro details about managing the nutrition. And so they just sort of wing it. They say, yeah, last year I had like, I don't know, like 5 gels on the bike, so this year I'll have 5. Well, they don't remember when they had them, you know, why they had those 5, what happened when they had those 5. They're just kind of winging it now. Are you going to have it at the right time or place? It becomes very hard to incrementally improve if you don't know when. So we want to go back and look at those nutrition elements and make some changes. You know, did you overheat? Did you not have enough salt? All those things are easy to fix if we know what they are, and then we write out a plan that we can practice in training and then implement again in that follow-up fall race. Last area you could think of is pacing. A lot of times people have a tough time pacing when they're really fit, because when you're really fit, there's sort of this small level of invincibility that comes in, you know, like I'm not sure if I should bike, you know 70% of my threshold power on the bike or 74%, and those 4%, it's a big gap in there. You know, your training tells you, etc. But early in the season, people are generally overly confident in their strengths, and they'll bet on that higher number just because they're excited. They've got a new high number. They want to use it. Later in the year, people tend to become much more conservative and tend to kind of hold back. Either way you go, whether you go with a higher number or lower number, you know, hopefully you've been testing. You have an idea of what your true threshold power is, or your training zones should be, so you can plan accordingly. But more importantly for me, you know, later in the year, it's much more about being steady. There's a lot of speed in being steady. You know, not coasting as much, doing more pedaling. You know, doing a better job of rolling the hills, keeping your momentum up, better job shifting. All sorts of things that you get better at across the course of a year. Even though as your fitness starts to go down or stay flat across a year, your skills, experience, and ability to ride well increases across a year, and that, you know, that intersection still means that there's some speed out there. Okay. So once we've talked about, you know, learning from last year's mistakes, then another space we want to work on is just finding the easy areas of improvement. So just not messing up like you messed up last time. Very simple. Now, another simple way, not the very simple way, but another simple way, is to find those easy areas for improvement. So number 1, improve transitions. This time is free. It's not uphill. It's organized as you organize it. It's indoors. often or an attempt, it's under your control. It's not that crowded. And so your ability to improve on those transitions can make a difference. If you're, let's say in the course of an Ironman, your transitions are 8 minutes on either side. If you can get 3 minutes off of each of those, T1 and T2, you save 6 minutes. That's probably more than half a mile for most people, and that's a free half mile. That's awesome, right? So really focus in on those transitions. Be smart. We have the plastic bag trick that we use inside of Nuanced. I recommend those of you on the team go ahead to the wiki, check it out from Wicked Smart member Al Truscott. I use it in Tremblant, love it. So easy, so simple. Can't believe I never thought of it before. Okay. Swim execution. Can you improve how you pace the swim? Things that come to mind for me are sticking with that group. Not the group that starts right off from the outset, but that group that kind of consolidates at about 8 to 10 minutes in. You want to stick with that group, right? Swimming with that group is better for you than swimming off on your own. That's something you can improve, as most people end up on their own when they're swimming. You want to keep moving your arms, as crazy as it sounds. You ever watch a triathlon from the shore, you'll be amazed at how many people aren't swimming at any given time. They're all looking or trying to find the next buoy. It's almost like if you were driving to grandmother's house and you had your trusty iPhone with you, because your iPhone looks like a dry erase marker. And every time you wanted to check the directions or the ETA at grandmother's house, you had to pull over, stop on the side of the road, and then check. Right? Now, if you did that, and say you checked the phone, every 10 minutes while you're driving, it's a 5-hour trip. That's 6 times an hour. That's 5 hours. That's 30 times. So every time you stop on the side of the road, it takes you 5 minutes. 30 times 5 minutes, 2.5 hours you've added to your trip because you're checking your phone. I want you to swim like your phone just updates in real time. It sits nicely on your dashboard, and you never have to touch it. You're not distracted, right? I want you to keep swimming. So as you're looking for the next buoy, you're still swimming, because forward progress is good. We want to keep our momentum. We don't want to drop our hips, etc. Okay, keep in your groove. And ultimately, looking for a consistent speed. So not too fast at the start, definitely not too slow at the end. You want to be really smooth and steady across your day. Again, a lot of people really start off hard and then really kind of crash and then kind of bounce back. We don't want to have those peaks and valleys. We want to be really steady all day on the swim. Is another opportunity for you to find speed. So bike execution. When I think about good bike execution, especially for a long course race where you're going 56 or 112 miles, the most important thing you can do is settle in. People don't settle enough. People are so happy to be out of the water, they just start racing. You need 10 to 15 minutes to settle in, get calmed down, make sure your all systems go on the bike, your computer's working, your shoes are all set, sunglasses, helmet, zippers, everything's good. You got all your food, you didn't lose anything. And all this while you're spinning easily and getting all that sorted out, your heart rate's coming down from that fast transition in T1, and you're kind of getting settled in and ready for your bike ride. So number 1 step on the bike is getting that heart rate down. Number 2 is restart your nutrition. Got to start that right away. You've been in the water for some time. Most people are not good at getting their food in early. I start eating at the 10-minute mark on the bike because, say after an hour and 4-minute swim in a transition, I haven't eaten for an hour and say 20, 25 minutes. That's a long time, even if I was just sitting at my desk during the day, not to eat, much less in a race. Okay. I want to focus on getting stupid aero. I love being aero. I love being down the aero bars. And so for you, really focusing on what that means to be aero for you and sticking in that aero position, hopefully a comfortable one for you, and really enjoying that. Avoiding all that extra time sitting up or messing around with your bottles, just being really smart. You want to maintain momentum across that course. Really work the hills. You've learned by the end of your season, like, hey, that's a hill that I can't climb in my big chain ring, or this is a section that I'm not comfortable with making this turn based on what I've learned this year. You learn a lot. You get smarter about your ability levels and your limitations. You know when to push them when you can't. So be very smart about that, but ultimately do your best to maintain that momentum so you can carry the work from one descent into the next period of the bike and really reap those rewards. And then finally, we want you to be really good at adjusting your pacing and fluid consumption as conditions evolve. If you're ahead of schedule, you can afford to be, dial back the effort a little bit, keep your heart rate down, and conserve for the run. If it becomes hotter than you think, the game is switched from performance from an effort standpoint to performance in the nutrition hydration side. and that it's not about total time on the clock, but relative placing time at the finish as compared to the competition. And you let the conditions drive the course of that day. And your job, by the time the fall comes around, is to be able to adapt, to really handle those changes and say, wow, I know what I need to do, or I've learned this year what I need to do. I'm going to start implementing these changes, and ultimately, kind of race like a seasoned veteran. You got a couple races under your belt now. You can make informed decisions and calls about your day. You don't have to have a plan and then take that plan and just drive right into a brick wall. Okay? And then finally, one last thing that I'll look at here, because I'm keeping this kind of short tonight, is redefining your one thing. Early on in the season, people tend to have like really sort of rah-rah, all fired up, like, crush everyone, or have an awesome day, or whatever. They're typically very motivational. They're sort of loud or big emotional elements. I encourage you in the second half of your year to find a one thing that's much more process-oriented. Executing a great race is about putting together an awesome process. Awesome grandmother's special recipe cookies aren't about buying the right stuff, and they aren't about letting them cool the right way. It's all the stuff that happens in between there, that process when you're making them. That's what makes those cookies awesome. And so too with your race. You can't just say, I just want to have the best bike split ever, and then really wish for it to happen, and then it won't happen, right? Like Santa Claus? Sorry, kids, not for reals. So you've got to really focus on that process. What are you doing to make this race perfect? What are those steps? And then commensurately adjust your one thing focus to that. For me, more often than not, it's no highs and no lows as I'm navigating that sort of murky gray space in the second half of my run. In Tremblant this year, I was really focused on third place female pro and sticking with her as we were running close to the same pace. That was very, very helpful for me as a carrot to not drop her, or rather not to be dropped by her. Sorry, that was the wrong way. Not lose sight of her as we were working our way through the course. So we want to have more specific, targeted goals for your one thing in the second half of the year. Really want to see your maturity level essentially rise as an athlete to go from, crush them all, or set a PR, which is awesome but not objective and not attainable and not very specific for you to achieve on, to something a little more nuanced and effective in the second half of your year. Ultimately, as we close out the main topic for tonight's chat, there's plenty of speed to be had on race day. Conditions may dictate things differently. The race you may pick, early in the year for September. Now that you're here in September, it doesn't seem so good. You can still have a great race. You can still wrap up your year. You can still have great execution regardless of what the time on the clock says. And all of that is information that you are gathering, collecting, and learning from, so that 2015, in this case, is a much better version than this year, because you have yet another race on your belt, another chance to kind of put your system, yourself, your pacing, your fitness, everything to the test, your new equipment, you name it. And so don't sell yourself short on those fall races, but do understand that while you may not be physically at the level you want to be this time of year, mentally you can do more than enough to cover that gap and really drive forward in terms of improvement as an athlete if you do it right. As always, I am here to help you in the micro forum or any of our forums on the Endurance Nation website. Those of you who are not members are free to check us out online at www.endurancenation.us. You can go ahead right there and create your own free 7-day trial, talk to me on the phone, get a triathlon season roadmap with Coach Rich, and sort of walk you through the process of how we help aid troopers with training plans designed to fit their lives, allow them to build critical fitness, and then support them as they become successful race execution ninjas on the big day. We even have our first-time finish program that guarantees that people doing their first ever iron distance triathlon with Team Endurance Nation we have their back. We support you. Should you not finish that first one, we will pay for your next big event. Done. Sold. Put our money where our mouth is. Ready to help you guys out. All right. So that said, thanks everyone on the team for your patience. that is the end of the presentation part of our September 2nd, 2014 Coach Chat on fall racing, a different perspective on performance. I'm going to head over to the chat room now, see what kind of questions we have from people. See, who do we have tonight? We've got, whoa, we got some cool people here tonight. Look at you guys. We've got Doug Johnson, Corey Martini, Laura Becker. What's up, Laura? Mary Russo, Mike Roberts. What's up, kids? Hope you guys are well. Would love to hear from you guys. If you guys have any questions about, fall racing or late season performance, or even your own questions, whatever that may be, I'm happy to dive in and get a couple minutes here before I turned into a pumpkin. Last week, I totally I was so dying. I was so tired last week. I think I was kind of falling asleep on camera. I'm doing a little better this week, but I'm still beat. This humidity is totally kicking my butt. Today was so hot. It's one of those days when you're running and you say, I barely survived this 10-miler that I just did as a standalone workout at an easy pace. How on earth am I going to do a 2.4 mile swim and then a 112-mile bike, then do these 10 miles, and then 16.2 more? Just one of those days. I'm sure you guys had it too out there, and you hopefully are sharing your stories on the team. But I'd love to hear from you guys. See if you guys have any specific questions. Here we go. Yeah, what is it, all that stuff, so I can answer their questions. Coach Rich has Ironman Wisconsin this weekend. Some of you guys are racing roughly Cedar Point. 70.3 World Championships are this weekend. All very exciting stuff. We've got some new website stuff coming out. Our social media guru, the brand new Mariah Bridges, is with us. And so we got lots of good stuff going on with the team and the website, all that stuff. It's kind of crazy times back here behind the scenes. But all good as we build the 2015. Of course, the out season kicks off in November, which seems like it's the day after tomorrow, which is not good because I have too much to do between now and then. But we're working on it. So always making updates, and of course, I'm head down trying to plan out what the heck I'm going to do between now and Kona, logistically, but also athletically, and so on. It's been a hectic fall. I love the fall, and school's back in session. Start coaching again this year. My wife and I are co-chairing the local major fundraiser for our daughter's elementary school. So it's going to be a busy fall for sure. Laura, no problem. Thank you so much. I'm always happy to help you out, and I look forward to finding your micro thread. We can start banging in there for you as well. I was thinking about you today. My 10-miler was 2 loops of the 5-mile course that I laid out for my 40 miles on my 40th. Man, it seemed a lot harder today just doing 2 of them. Not sure how I did 8 of them last time. Kind of mind-boggling. All right, kids. Well, that's it. It's about 9:30 Tuesday night, and I'm officially exhausted. I have to bounce back for another day tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I look forward to seeing you guys on the website. And if you are racing this weekend, wherever that may be, I look forward to cheering you guys on. Everyone else, you can obviously find us on the web at www.endurancenation.us, twitter.com/teamen, facebook.com/endurancenation, instagram.com/teamendurancenation. Pretty much anywhere you search Endurance Nation, we're coming up. Thanks so much, folks. I look forward to seeing you guys online or at the races.